Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about a topic called shame. I know that there's a lot of people dealing with shame because of things that they have done or things that have done to them. For example, there's a gentleman I know who was raped when he was 3 years old by a priest. And his whole life he dealt with shame. Never told anybody about it, but it affected his marriage and his relationships. So we're going to talk about that right after this. All right, so we're talking about shame, a very difficult topic to talk about, a very emotional topic, something that a lot of people deal with because of things that have been done to them or things that they have done. How do you heal from shame? How do you get through shame? Well, first let me say this, that Jesus is the only one who can heal. He's the healer. Remember in Luke 4:18 it says he was sent to heal the brokenhearted. So those who've had their hearts shredded, that's what the Greek says means about brokenhearted. Those who've had their hearts shredded because of an event and it has caused you trauma. It has traumatized you. Jesus was sent specifically, it says, to heal you. Now let's take a look at Paul, because Paul dealt with shame, believe it or not. Remember Paul? Paul was the guy that was killing Christians. Right? Then he was on the road to Damascus one day and a bright light shined around him. Jesus spoke. Jesus arrested him. And Paul gave his life to Christ from that point. And that point on, he preached the gospel. Now I want you to think about this. He preached the very thing he was going after. So he was making the very things he was killing. He used to kill Christians. He would hunt them down. He had a license, let's say, by the high priest to kill Christians. Now he is one and he's making more. So think about the shame every time he makes another Christian, every time he preaches the gospel. Think about all the people that he's thinking about that he had killed because of the very message that he is sharing. He is that. Talk about shame. Well, Philippians 3:13, one of the things that we see Paul say, it's very interesting, and I hope it blesses you and it helps you. He says, "Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind," remember that, forgetting what lies behind, "and reaching forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." So Paul says something very interesting here. He says, I forget about the things or what lies behind. Forget about it. That's what we would say if I still lived in the Bronx, right? Forget about it. But how do you forget about something that has caused you a lot of shame? Well, when we get into the Greek about the word forgetting, it doesn't mean just forget it. The Greek word is epilanthanommenos, which is a compound Greek word. It's two Greek words, epi and lanthanommenos. Now in the Greek, epilanthanommenos means that I lose it out of my mind, or I get rid of it. Wherever it's at, I locate it and I get it out of my mind. It's the same word we use to forget, right? Yeah, I forget it. Forget doesn't mean just to don't pay attention to it, I just ignore it. It says that I go and find it and I get it out of my mind. That's what the Greek words, lanthanommenos. But if you break the Greek word up into two words, epi and lanthanommenos, epi in the Greek means to rise above. So Paul is immediately using a Greek word that says, I'm rising above my shame. And lanthanommenos means to get over or something. Lanthanommenos means something that has been hidden. So Paul is saying this, that I'm getting over something that has been hidden. Shame is hidden for a lot of people. People hide their shame their whole lifetime. They go to their grave with that shame. Never talk about it, never share it, never get healed from it. A shame of like I said, a gentleman being raped at 3 years old. A shame. And they live with it and ruins their relationships, intimacy with their wife or several wives because they can't get over the shame. And so Paul says this, he says, I rise above it. He says, and I take that thing that's been hidden in my life for so long, and I find it, I locate it, and I loosen it. I get it out of my mind. It is no longer part of who I am. Paul's identity was not attached to his shame. Paul's identity was not attached to a traumatic event. Paul's identity was attached to Jesus Christ, the healer of his broken heart. So what I'm saying to you today is this. If you're dealing with shame, something that was done to you or something that you've done personally to somebody, well, rise above it, give it to Christ, and allow him to heal you, and then move forward. Like Paul said, he says, I'm reaching forward to what lies ahead. There's a great life lying ahead for you, but you can't get there because you're stuck in this shame, and all you see is shame. Paul says, rise above it. Get over it, in a sense, but give it to Jesus, and he'll remove it forever. He came, he was sent to heal the brokenhearted. He was sent to heal you. God bless you. We'll talk soon.